So what's the reality? Why do businesses need cybersecurity? Why do businesses engage with cybersecurity? What's the actual truth behind this? Not what we want it to be, not what we think it should be, not what we hope it should be, not driven by necessarily the answers that we have. Now, I don't have the answer. I have an answer. And in my article, Nobody Wants Cybersecurity, I put forward this self-grandiose paradigm, call it Barker's Hierarchy of Need, which is just my view, my interpretation of why businesses engage on cybersecurity and why businesses want cybersecurity. And I think it's about satisfying need. If we satisfy need, then everybody is happy. If we don't satisfy a need, or we satisfy a need that isn't there, then boom, we have conflict. So hopefully this will help us to understand that. So what I did as part of that is I developed this hierarchy, this hierarchy as I perceive it of need, and the first iteration of that, the one that I will always go to, is this 3-step, where the bottom of the pyramid is the base need, and then we build upon that. And I know that it feels counterintuitive, especially if you're in this environment and you're in this world where we believe that law and regulation is driving everything. We believe that companies want to do the right thing and everybody wants cybersecurity, but that's not the reality. And I think the sooner we understand that, as I say, the better place we're going to be for having smooth relationships and smooth engagements. So the very basics of the Barker Hierarchy of Need is the customer requires it, then funding requires it, and then the law requires it. So what I see is the majority of the engagement is that my customers are demanding of them a level of security, and that then gets interpreted into a standard, be that PCI DSS for credit cards, be it GDPR for data privacy, be it SOC if you've got an American customer and American clients. So multiple frameworks that are out there. But our clients are asking for it, my clients are asking for it, people that I engage with are asking for it and asking help on it because their customers are asking them for it. So there is a commercial requirement, a commercial need. So that is the first step in the hierarchy of need. The second one is that funding requires it. Now, if you are lucky enough to be in a startup business, or you're lucky enough to be in a business that's going through growth, then at some point you are going to come across funding. And rightly, any funding mechanism that you go through is typically going to ask you for some level of framework, for some level of assurances around security. The go-to being 27001. So people are not knocking on your door saying, please can I have 27001? Either customers are demanding it because they want to see that you have the right security that they need, if you're part of a supply chain, for instance, or funding is going to request it so that they know, again, that you've got the right processes in place. So customer requires it, funding requires it, and then bizarrely, counterintuitively, the last priority, so the top of the tree, is that the law requires it. So GDPR is driving Data Protection Act 2018 in the UK, and there are a number of laws around that and international laws as well. And those laws require that you have an element of cybersecurity within your organization. Now, everything is a risk-based model, and I think most businesses will operate on that risk-based model, and potentially law is not going to be the primary driver for the majority of businesses. I will argue that clearly some are, but what I am witnessing is customer first, then funding, and then law. Now, you could say that's a simplified model. What about this? What about that? What about breaches, for example? So what I did, and for the academics amongst you, is you have an expanded model. Okay, so this would be a model that, again, I would discuss and I would posit and I would put to you the paradigm Barker's Hierarchy of Cybersecurity Need expanded. So in this scenario, what we're seeing in there is the introduction of breach, regulation, and esteem. So what I'm saying is the priority is customer. So that's going to be your first need. Then it's going to be funding. Now you may skip funding. Breach, again, maybe your first dalliance onto this hierarchy. What we do find is that people will do nothing until they get breached, and then when they get breached, that's their first port of call for having a cybersecurity service need. be that something technical like a pen test need or some cyber recovery need, or then instigating the frameworks that are there. But that's going to be the point that you engage with the hierarchy. Then you have regulation. So regulation actually does, for me, form part of law, but there are regulations that are not law specific. So you may have gaming regs, you may have financial regs, you may have industry specific regulations that are not driving you for law, but they're the minimum that you need to operate within your industry. So to operate within your industry, you have to meet that regulation. And that regulation typically will have probably a low bar, but it will have an element of cybersecurity service requirement within it. And that regulation is going to drive you. Above that, again, I know people are saying counterintuitive, but the legal requirement actually is quite far up the chain of need. That requirement to satisfy the law once you become more established as a business and more mature as a business. And the final part, which is worth acknowledging for me, is Esteem. So once everything is in play, some people, some businesses want to be seen to be doing the right thing. They want to be seen to be the major player in this place, in their space, and have all of their cybersecurity boxes ticked. They will chase down all of the various certifications, etc. Now that is rare. Again, tends to be industry leaders, hence why it's the top of the pyramid. So that was a short introduction to my paradigm, Barker's hierarchy of cybersecurity need, and again, caveating that with Barker's hierarchy of cybersecurity need for business. Obviously, consumers have different needs, and I'll touch on that in another video. But hopefully you found that of use. So if we know where on the hierarchy of need the customer, the person that's speaking to us is coming from, the person that we're engaging is coming from, then clearly we can tailor our solution, our advices to their actual need, rather being the religious zealot for which particular religious strain of cybersecurity we're in and pushing our needs, pushing our views, pushing our particular doctrine, which is boom, as I say, boom. It's ultimately going to lead to conflict, right? The business has a requirement, we have a particular view, and if those two don't gel and we don't understand each other, then we're just going to have conflict. You're going to see that either in your relationships failing, if you're a CISO or you're a professional working full-time in an organization, professional frustration is going to come through. We see that a lot. Oh my God, why isn't my company listening to me? Why isn't my company doing X, Y, and Z? So it bridges that gap. So hopefully some value to you. I'm happy to take your feedback. I'm happy for your comments. I love an engagement, right? I don't have the answer. I have an answer. So I'm happy to take your comments. I'm happy to engage with you. But I thought it was worth putting it out there. And as I say, hopefully you get some value. Thanks for spending time with me. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye-bye.